Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner Classic, that's known classic. This is episode number 1482 and Doubleshot number 1376. Once again, another one of these basically in a row of where I couldn't get the trades for these two. I couldn't get the trades that collect these issues because they're not available. So my normal solution for this was to buy the trade. But due to the fact I had very little amount of money, can't do that. So this is my best solution for it. So, what was printed in the very first trade for this was from Sinestro Volume 1, Demon Within. Now, the first issue printed in the trade is issued right here. Green Lantern number 23.4, Sinestro number 1. Yep. Now, this one is not written by the writer who writes the Sinestro series, Cullen Bunn. This is by Matt Knott. Mostly put for this one, it's just basically explaining Sinestro's, well, it's his backstory. Yeah, so his time on his own planet when he became a Green Lantern. It's basically just a retelling of his classic origin story, told from the perspective of Lisa Dark. Yes, the keeper of the Book of Parallax. Yep, she's basically reading this whole thing about his time with, like, his pretty much, it's recapping it. It's a basically kind of a retelling of his classic history. Like first was a scientist, became a little member of the Green Lantern Corps, became leader of his home world, became a parent, fought Hal Jordan. He got demoted, formed his own corps, fought the First Lantern, and of course, because the Book of Parallax is pretty much gone, the Book of Parallax text it basically merges with the skin of Lisa Dark, and that's it. Yeah, and of course, from her perspective, basically the present day stuff, this is just after the events of Rat the First Lantern. Yes. Now moving on to the first 5 issues of the Sinestro series. Written by Cullen Bunn, artwork by Dale Inglesam, which, yes, this cover for the first issue, that is the cover for the trade. Beware his power. Thing starts off in this issue with Sinestro basically in a mine, just minding his own business. He pretty much just basically put aside the parallax because, from his perspective, this is just after he had just killed the. He became the host of the parallax entity, and he pretty much just sort of abandoned his position as leader of the Sinestro Corps. Well, that is until Lisa Dark finds him and tells him it's time to return to the Sinestro Corps. And he's like, nothing out there. My family, my daughter basically hates me. He's like, my daughter hates me, my people are gone. And Lisa Dark's like, well, that's not entirely true. There are people so many people are actually still alive. He's like, what? So many people are alive? Okay. And then, of course, like, he doesn't have his bag with him. So basically what he does, he takes his ring and pushes up against the chest of Lisa Dark. And she likes it. And he uses and apparently doesn't like the fact that she apparently has the entire text of the Book of Parallax all over her skin, even her tongue. Yes, that's Lisa Dark for you. And becomes a Yellow Lantern again. Yep. So right after that, he flies off to return to his own corps. First, after finding out he's telling the truth, yep, find some people actually still alive, and then he returns to his own Sinestro Corps. And then Arkilla has become basically the leader of the Sinestro Corps, calling it the Arkilla Corps. And he's like, really? Can't take you seriously, man. Oh, really? How about if I take your daughter hostage? That's what he's saying. Like, oh, like. And she's like, hello, father, you bastard. Yeah, his daughter has always hated him. Yep. And then pretty much they would take, and we see like some strange creature, which basically that's some minor stuff here. Which look at it. Then he basically fights his own corps in order to take back a position. Now, he defeats Arkilla pretty easily. And a couple of members of the corps. But basically he destroys their rings. And basically, as they find out about like a few of these lanterns together, I know I will seek them out. Ah, yes. One eye of the future. Yep, because she's got to think of the future. And then, of course, Sinestro talked to her daughter. Like, Vivica hates, I want to show you something. They're like, really? Is this true? Are people alive? Yep. And then our killer just sitting in the medical bay. And she's like, Sarek, my father sent me to fix you up, Arkillo. It's alright, I'm a doctor. This might be a pinch. Yeah, implying she's going to hurt him because she dared take him hostage, despite the fact later on these two become good friends. Yep. And so he have Sinestro talking to a couple of members. He talked to Reagan Kyle and Des Corvus. Asked to respect him. He's like, yep, no problem. And they go on basically search for people from the Korgans, and of course deal with other creatures. And that's just issue 2, mind you. And deal with these weird people, these weird creatures. Of course, he's still searching for his own people. His daughter still, of course, obviously hates him. His people, when they react to see him, basically, they don't really give a damn about him. He's like, leave you alone. If I left you alone, your insignificant little mite will still be in stasis, sacrificed like cattle to obscene religion. You'll destroy, I can always catch you back in space myself. Show us understand, you are the fiend we dread. We were captured as placed. Steven is asleep. We were torn by nightmares. Nightmares of you finding us. What is your name, woman? Or dread, please sit with us. For now, until someone suited tests, I will speak for Kangar. Let us talk. You speak for Kangar? I listen to voice of her. People during bad times. After all I've done. He's like, see, control the world, turning into a breeding ground for fear, turning people into outcasts of unknown space. If you join us. I'll talk about perhaps they can rescue more. Yep, and, well, then of course we have, well, Sinestro and his daughter have a chat. Like, points out the fact he's a jerk, but doesn't like his old daughter. The fact that he points out she's not the prisoner, she's just basically just a guest. And gives her a Green Lantern battery. Yep. If you see Sinestro all bandaged up, and of course everyone's chatting for a bit. And of course she tries to tag along to deal with these religious cult people. Yeah, that just lasts for this issue here. And the very next issue dealing with this religion people. Yeah, kind of a weird way to start the series how the Sinestro fight some cult. Yep. And pretty much that flashes to basically, and we have this funny line from Sewing. It says, "You want to kill my father? Life forms to the left." I think that's so hilarious because everyone wants to kill Sinestro because everybody hates him. I'm like, okay. Yep. And defeats the cult, kills them. Sinestro doesn't like it. And then, of course, you have one of the Sinestro Corps dare to share a bed with him. Like, are you serious? Where is Sinestro finding people? She shared a bed celebration. What? Are you serious? Yeah, he's got. Yeah, the thing with her is that the only guy she's ever had a serious relationship with is Kyle Rayner, but he's like nowhere to be seen. They tried to reconcile their relationship in the Hal Jordan Green Lantern Corps series, but that went nowhere. After finding a bunch of people after dealing with this cult, and then the pencil issue of the story ends with Sinestro coming face to face with Hal Jordan, the leader of the Green Lantern Corps. Yes, that's something. Actually, you probably think that. A lot of people probably think that was something Robert Venditti did. Technically, no. That was something Jeff Johns did at the end of his run. Like the very last issue, he made him lead of the Green Lantern Corps. And he was leader up until, well, I'd say I think it was like just prior to Converge he was leading. He had to step down because he wanted to restore their reputation. They have Hal and Kyle We have Hal and Sinestro fight for a bit, and it turns out that Sonic called him. It's like, fine. And of course, they say they have a chat. And of course, Sonic takes care of the people. And of course, they talk about how, have a chat of how Sinestro killed the Guardians. Since you murdered them, it wasn't murder, it was punishment. Kernagor died because of their sins. Yeah, and also because they're all, like, with the exception of Ganthet and his girlfriend, all are all freaking jerks. Yep. And what about Parallax? I was in control. Really? They're like, haha. Have to manage people up. Sinestro saved them. And of course, Hal's like, and who are you? Dag's Lantern? Guess you want a shot at the championship belt, you have to wait till this is. Don't let him go to you, Reagan. Despite the ring he wears, George's true gift is ability to annoy people around him. That part is true. He does annoy people. Of course, Hal Jordan is an idiot. Yeah, because look at the first three ones. Like, you have Hal Jordan, idiot. You have Guy Gardner, who's a jerk. I think John Stewart is somewhat of an idiot. Kyle Rayner, don't have much to comment about him. And then we figure out exactly what happened with the Parallax, where basically Sinestro excised of his body and just basically became nothing. And then apparently Parallax comes back and attacks Hal. And then Sinestro basically just subdues it. Yep. Sinestro, and of course, Sonic basically asks Hal to just go, look out for your people. And the next thing is Future's End. Yep. Now for the last bit of basically Sinestro, the Future's End one shot is interesting. Now, yes, it is written by Colin, but not done by the artwork is done by Dale Ergison. It's done by a different artist. This artist is Igor Lemma. Yeah. It's most but Sinestro 5 years in the future. Of course, this book does tease something that would happen just after Convergence. And that would be sort of become a Yellow Lantern. Yes, they actually tease that in here. They have her being a Yellow Lantern. That's the only thing from this book that actually made it, that Colin Bunn decided to make canon in the book. Because of the events of Green Lantern Corps Lost Army. Yeah, most of it was just Sinestro in prison. Just basically prison for all his crimes, basically did. He's a much more older guy. For some reason, the way he's drawn Hal Jordan Green Lantern kind of looks like this, but with gray in his hair for some reason. And they reminisce of basically one of the Sinestro Corps' last missions. And here you go. Here is basically Sonic as a Yellow Lantern, something they tease in the one shot. Yeah, tease in his one shot. So he's here, and then of course Sinestro just puts his ring back on, kills the guards, get out of the prison, and well, then turns out that Lisa Zark is not actually around. She was dead. And then, of course, he decides to take up a new ring. Which ring? The Black Lantern Corps, which uses to resurrect all the dead Sinestro Corps members. Yep. That's how the thing ends. What ranking do I give this? I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's an excellent story. I mean, this is actually just really good. And some people are thinking, and why did this series have to end? Honest answer, I have no idea. Yeah, but it didn't last very long. It lasted, like, after this, it managed to last about, well, it lasted issue 23 and had an annual. And that's it. That's seriously all the series had. Like, I would have thought that they would kept the series around even after for Rebirth, but nope, they ended that story, they ended that series. And whatever plot threads they had left from this series was continued in Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Corps. Next up is the Ravagers. This is from the second trade of the series, which also, like the first trade for Sinestro, wasn't able to get because unavailable. Yeah, Volume 2 collected issues 8 through 12 and issue 0. Now, issue 0, which is the first thing we discuss here, this is pretty much how Caitlin Fairchild met Beast Boy. And this is done by Howard Mankey with Ian Churchill and Norm Ram in the artwork. Yeah, that's simply what the story is, how they first met. And Harvest is in here as well. Yes, Harvest, one of the most useless villains in New 52. And here's something interesting about Sinestro. Not Sinestro. Harvest. Has he appeared in any comic book that's not associated with Scott Lobdell stuff? Not really, no. I mean, his last appearance was him being confirmed dead in the pages of the second volume for Red Hood and the Outlaws. Yep. But the issue itself is actually pretty good. Now, issue number 8 is actually the start and beginning of the end of the series. Now, the writing of this book, now, the thing with this book is, I'll get to my final thoughts. They kept changing writers in this book for some reason. You have Michael Allen Nelson in the book. And it seems as though that, let's have, for the first issue in here, just focus on Warblade and Ravager just doing whatever they want. Yep, that's what issue 8 is. Just basically them do whatever they want. Just hang out in town, cause some ruckus. And then the Ravagers show up at the last page of issue 8. 9 is, well, something else. And then we have a fight between the Ravagers and Warblade. The Ravagers versus Warblade and Rose Wilson. And of course you have a guy who breaks out of prison, fights them, and of course they get away. Yeah, this sheriff basically, who's a father, who's way overprotective of his kids. Like, apparently she can't leave their house without his express permission, which is so freaking dumb. Yep. Yeah, and the sheriff actually dies. Yep. And then the issue ends with the return of Harvest, where basically plans to do something with the Ravagers. Well, that starts happening in issue 10. Yep. And then the very next issue, we begin with Harvest, and he's here with Deathstroke. Yes, Deathstroke. Yes, because Harvest has hired Deathstroke to retrieve the Ravagers. That was the reason for that. Yep, and I will discuss exactly what happened at the end of the story arc. Everybody's back at their headquarters, which is now a safe house. And we're just relaxing for a while. And then Riz just turns back into a kid. Yep, turns back to suffer some memory loss. And then, of course, you have Ravager. You have Rose Wilson and Warblade just tearing stuff up. And then we have Beast Boy and Terra on the date. Yep. And they make out. And then we see, Lightning basically having migraines. And, the best way to fix it is because of Lightning's absence. Well, she's back. Everybody's like, back to normal. And apparently she remembers her mom was pregnant when he was taken. And then he gets stabbed with this weird-looking knife, the end issue 10, by Deathstroke. Yeah. Don't worry, he's not dead. And it begins issue 11, where we have a co-writer here for this issue, and the last issue done by Tony Bedard, where you have Beast Boy with Terra just relaxing in the room, and then we have, get this, Rose Wilson ending up in Caitlin Fairchild's bedroom. Yep. And of course, now it's Cordair trying to call a True Alert. And then you have Deathstroke showing up and saying, Fairchild, no, you got a camera in her room, right? Deathstroke. And then he gets stabbed. Yep. Niles Cordero gets stabbed by frickin' Deathstroke. And, of course, you have a brawl between Caitlin Fairchild and Rose Wilson. And then, of course, well... And then, for some reason, at least the security system of the safe house... The Animal Vegetable Middleman! Yes, no Doom Patrol villain that apparently Tony Bedard... I think it was Tony Bedard trying to throw this in. This is so hilarious. And, of course, Beast Boy's trying to protect Tara. And, of course, everybody's going on Rampage. Yep. To come. And it turns out that we revealed that Caitlin Fairchild, like, apparently there's a clone. And Rose Wilson reveals to her, cloned you? What made you think you were the original? Ooh. More on that in a minute. If I get back to the stupid ad here. Yep. They have Deathstroke stabbing Tara. And she disappears. And I think it's Tara, right? I think it's Lightning. Yeah, Thunder and Lightning takes out, and then he apparently takes out Tara. And of course, Beast Boy gets mad. He calls him like, "I love you, SOB." And of course, he slices out his face, knocking off his helmet. It's like, you're dead meat. Yeah, but I find these other clones. Yep. And then Rose gets stabbed by this thing. Like, what? After Caitlin Fairchild deals with it. And it turns out that, yep, that Caitlin Fairchild we've been following since Superboy. This Caitlin Fairchild is not the extra Caitlin Fairchild. He's a clone of the original. Yep, who murdered her own father. And then Deathstroke basically kills her, well, stabs her. Yes, his oldest friend was Alex Fairchild, Caitlin Fairchild's father. Yeah, he says, I killed the real Caitlin Fairchild. And this is apparently back in Team 7, number 6. Yes. So he stabs her. Cut back to the colony. Yes, the colony are back here again. And apparently Deathstroke has succeeded. Got Rose Wilson, no problem, got his daughter. And then he basically just sees, oh yeah, all the Ravagers are all in these tubes. And he takes Tara. And then we see Raven meet up with Beast Boy. Which that continues in the pages of Teen Titans. Now, in the case what happened to everybody else here. Deathstroke and Tara and Rose later popped up in the last 2 issues of Deathstroke ongoing series. Done at the time by... Let's see. I think it was... Because I remember the book got canceled. Like, with the last 2 issues. For some reason, Deathstroke went back to his book for some reason. Like, his last 2 issues were done by... I don't think it was Tony Bedard, was it? No, it was Justin Jordan. Yeah, and they have, well, Rose and Tara pop up with these last 2 issues. Yep. But then after that, Tara herself does pop up into the next volume of Deathstroke. Yes, the next volume. Yep, she appears in that next volume for Deathstroke. Or she appears as a recurring character in Volume 4. Well, not Volume 3, Volume 4. Yeah, she's in it for pretty much a long haul. And then she appeared in, like, the last issue of Doomsday Clock. And that was the last bit for her. Okay. Now, as in the case of Thunder and Lightning, they never appeared ever again. Not that I know of, no. Yeah, it seems as though once this series ended, like, Thunder and Lightning never appeared ever again. Caitlin Fairchild, I think she popped up in an issue of Batgirl. And I think that was it. I think just Batgirl. Yeah, Batgirl was her only appearance after this. Yeah, she popped up for 1 issue of Batgirl, and it was the final issue of Gail Simone's run. She also popped up for Convergence the Question, where she's there for the lead for the Starfire series. And that's it. Yeah, so 2 appearances by her, and that's it. Ridge. Well, after this book wrapped up, he never appeared. Well, he did appear in Doomsday Clock 12, but that was it for him. Okay. Niles Cordair, I believe, lets show up in Justice League. Yeah, I think after this book ended, he popped up in Justice League. Yeah, he popped up in the Justice League. The Forever Aftermath popped up for one issue of Justice League United, issue of Justice League Legends of Tomorrow, Teen Titans Giants, Teen Titans Burning Rage. He was in the 6th volume for Doom Patrol, one issue of the World. He appeared sporadically, but not much. But what about Harvest, mind you? Oh, he's dead. Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, as soon as this book ended, he did nothing. Yeah, he practically did nothing until he popped up for the finale for Teen Titans. He popped up in issue 29. It apparently looked like he's alive. And he also popped up for the 3rd and last annual publisher for Volume 4. Yep. Yeah, where currently the man is dead. Yep. At least Deathstroke's still active. Well, he got several volumes. He's made sporadic appearances since his own series ended, but not a lot of stuff for him. But he's basically made a lot more contributions to the DC Comic Universe than frickin' like Caitlin Fairchild, who appeared in 2 comics. And that was it. Ridge appeared in like 1. Like, a lot of these characters basically just stopped appearing in this book afterwards. My only big problem with this book was the fact that, well, the other problem with the fact that I canceled 12 issues. Not necessarily, no. Because, where else can you go with the series? Because, here's the thing. Originally, the series was by Howard Mankey. Yeah, he basically was the writer for the book. Yeah, and then he left. Now, Ian Churchill was basically the artist of the book, basically, for a good period of time. And with issue 8, it was taken by Michael Allen Nelson. Yes. For some reason, they had this guy come on board. And he was the sole writer of this book into issue number 11. Where they had Tony Bedard take over the book. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tony Bedard is a fantastic writer. But I'm like, okay. Yeah. And probably the one person most affected by the end of the series is Niles Cordair, because they kept changing their mind and what they're going to do with him. Because next time we show up is with a Doom Patrol, or apparently he's back to the way Grant Morrison were back in the 80s. And then he pops up in, like, Jared Way's version of the Doom Patrol, where he's kind of back to the Silver Age version. It's like DC didn't know what to do with this character. Oh, and here's the thing. When he showed up in Justice League, he was actually walking. In the pages of Doom Patrol, he's back in his wheelchair again. For no reason. Yep, like DC just did not know what to do with him at all. I thought it was kind of odd though, Thunder and Lightning just didn't appear ever again. Ridge appeared in like 1 comic, and like I said, Caitlin Fairchild, just 2 comics, that was it. It's like, yeah, it's almost like this group was a group that nobody cared about, and if you read the book like all the way through, it seems as though that the writer had an okay idea what, like, both Howard Mankey and Howard Mankey had an okay idea what to do with the book, and then he was removed from the book, replaced with Michael Allen, who probably had to pick up the slack for the book. My guess is because he probably heard at that point they're going to cancel the book anyways, because 4 issues after he came on the book ends. Yes. My guess is this book ended due to low sales. That's my personal theory anyways. Is this a terrible series? No, not really. It just seems as though that I think the reason why the series didn't sell too well, because of its, let's just say, its very heavily associated with the culling. In fact, this spun off from the culling, an event that got negative reception toward it. Now, get me wrong, Howard Mankey is a great writer. He's a legendary writer. He's been writing for a long period of time. Now, I think, like, aside from this book, I don't think he did, like, a lot for DC. Let's see. Well, he did the Ravagers for 7 issues and issue 0. He did Batman Black and White number 1, and he did Speed Demon, which came back in 1996, which basically was an anagram of the Flash and the Ghost Rider. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's it for him. Because mostly people think of Howard Mankey, people think of his time at Marvel. Not his time as DC. The guy, I love the guy's work. It's just that, well, the guy himself doesn't get a lot to do. As for the other guy, I never read much of the guy's work. The guy is only, get this, Howard Mankey is 63. Yep. And if you look up his Marvel work, like, wow, this is pretty much almost his entire career is working at Marvel Comics. Yes, seriously it is. Like, I'm looking at it right now, like, I think probably like the last special comic he worked at Marvel. Oh, I would probably say it is, what I can call us to look at it, it is probably, because apparently the guy hasn't done much for Marvel in some time. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think like the last special comic he wrote was, let's see, for Marvel Comics. Let's see, I think the last special comic he wrote was either Amazing X-Men Volume 229 or the anime that came out in 2001, because there was also Mutant X he worked on at toward the end of his tenure. He worked on Peter Parker Spider-Man. He worked on a few books. He also worked on a couple issues of Web Spinners, Tales of Spider-Man, and, well, yeah. Because looking at his work, the guy didn't do a lot outside of Marvel. No, he didn't. I kind of wished he would do more stuff, but I think when he came on to do stuff for DC, this probably was his first book he had done in over a decade. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at, technically the last book he worked on was Spider-Man the Clone Saga, which came out in 2010. That was his last special book he worked on at Marvel. That was 11 years ago. His last special comic he wrote came out 8 years ago. So, yeah, the guy has not done a work for any comic company in 8 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I would think this guy basically would do a lot more work, but he just hasn't. But the guy, if you read the guy's work, I mean, one of his best-known characters he created was Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, which I believe he wrote almost the entire volume for that. Let's see. Yeah, he wrote almost the entire volume for it. He wrote the first 69 of, I think it was like 93 issues, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't write the remainder issues of it, but yeah, he wrote it for a pretty good period of time. Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. Yeah, he was the original writer for this volume until it was handed off to Ivan Vance Jr., who did pretty much the rest of the run. Yeah. But I think for a lot of people, that's what he's best known for, is creating Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. Yeah. Kind of wish this guy would get more work. The guy's a really good writer. Maybe he wants to slow down. Who knows? Okay, so that's particularly it for this particular review. Stay tuned if I do another video today. This is not exactly what's pre-planned. I just did it because I just wanted to do it. Yep. But here's the next video. Bye.